John Steenhuisen is stepping aside, but it's not clear that he's stepping away. You see, when reports emerged that Steenhuisen would not seek another term as the leader of the Democratic Alliance, it sounded like a straightforward political exit. You know, a party leader steps down, a successor steps up, and the chapter closes. Except the details don't quite fit that script. Now, inside the DA, preparations are already underway for a life without Steenhuisen at the top. Attention has now shifted to who comes next, with Cape Town Mayor Jordan Hill-Lewis, the name most often mentioned as the successor. Yet, while the party leadership picture is in motion, one thing hasn't changed at all. Steenhuisen remains a cabinet minister in the government of national unity. Now that's where things get interesting. You see, party leadership and ministerial power are two very different things. Leading the DA means managing internal politics, donors, and election strategy. Sitting in cabinet means national visibility, policy influence, and a seat at the table where decisions are made. And in Steenhuisen's case, it's that cabinet role, specifically his responsibilities as Minister of Agriculture, that may have turned this political timing into something far more urgent. Now that urgency comes down to an escalating foot and mouth disease outbreak that is facing his department. You see, the crisis has brought export risks, operational strain, and growing criticism from farming groups. All of this landing on Steenhuisen, who is responsible for that response. And so the reporting doesn't suggest that how he has managed this outbreak has pushed him out of the DA race. But it does suggest that the optics are hard to ignore. I mean, think about it. Running for party leader becomes far more difficult when a major agricultural crisis is unfolding on your watch. Now for the DA, this avoids a messy internal fight and opens up the door to a reset ahead of key elections. Now for Hill-Lewis, it transforms a potential contest into a smooth succession. And for Steenhuisen, it leaves one question hanging over this entire move, which is this a step back or a step sideways? I guess the answer depends on where you think the real political power sits. So if that's where political leadership sits today, the pressure on everyday South Africans is showing up somewhere else entirely. South Africa's national minimum wage is going up again, which sounds like good news, and on paper, it is. But for a lot of workers, this isn't the kind of increase that suddenly makes the month easier. So sure, the hourly floor price is rising, the headline looks bigger, but then this complex reality kicks in. So this all comes down to how the system actually works. You see, the minimum wage is set per hour, not per month, and it comes with these sector-specific rules and arrangements. So, for instance, domestic workers, people on government job programs, and employees on learnerships don't all land on the same number at the same time. And add to that inconsistent enforcement and employees trimming hours instead of boosting pay, and that gap between the law and what actually hits the payslip closes fast. And all of this sits inside a trade-off that government just keeps bumping into. You see, the aim here is to protect low-income workers from being swallowed up by inflation. But in an economy where more than 30% of people are reportedly unemployed, high labor costs make businesses, especially the small ones, think twice before hiring. And so the result here is this narrow tightrope, trying to lift incomes without quietly pricing people out of work. So that's the pressure at the bottom of the pay scale, but there is movement at the top too. Founders selling large chunks of their own company usually raise eyebrows. Now that's the position that WeBuyCars finds itself in this week. You see, founders Faan and Dirk van der Walt have sold just over 866 million rand worth of shares, their first disposal since the company listed in 2024. And look, the timing hasn't helped the perceptions. This sale comes just weeks after WeBuyCars was fined and ordered to refund consumers following a consumer tribunal ruling. Now, based on the facts though, analysts say that this doesn't look like a loss of confidence. You see, the brothers say that the sale was part of long-planned portfolio diversification and estate planning after the share price surged nearly 200% since listing. And now at that point, their stake had become a disproportionately large part of their personal wealth, a classic risk management problem for founders post-IPO. But crucially, they're not exiting. The van der Walts still hold just under 6% of the company, remain in executive roles, and say they don't plan any further sales in the near term. Now, that matters because markets tend to worry less about founders selling and more about founders leaving. And so yes, the timing invites scrutiny, but taken in full, this at least appears less like a retreat and more like founders doing what all public markets eventually force everyone to do: spread the risk. And before we cruise on to our bagel bite of the day, here's a couple other headlines worth knowing. For starters, adults may soon face clearer rules on private cannabis use, with proposed regulations capping possessions at 750 grams a day, limiting home grows to 5 plants, and tightening transport rules, as government moves to activate the Cannabis Act. Eskom managed to spook its own creditors after its latest investor call, warning that unbundling could trigger 400 billion rand in debt coming due, a claim that lenders aren't buying as tensions grow over how this power utility is being restructured. And according to S&P, African credit ratings are at their strongest since 2020, helped by easing inflation and reforms, though big debts still loom, with South Africa, Egypt, and Nigeria carrying some of the heaviest repayment loads. And just a quick side note, if you're enjoying the show, please can I ask that you like and subscribe. It goes a long way. Furthermore, if you do prefer your news on the go, you can find us on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Links to both those are either in our description below or our bio. And on to our bagel bite of the day. This one's for the lawyers. Let's see what you got. The question is, what is the name of the legal principle that prevents someone from being tried twice for the same crime? Is it A, statutes of limitations, B, equal protection, or C, double jeopardy? We'll give you the answer at the end of the show. You know, I'm very proud of South Africa's records. Every now and then I'll just flip through the record books and look for ours, just see where we pop up, and we pop up more than you'd think. Now, we've got some obvious flexes, the largest diamond ever found, the most milkshake flavors in a single restaurant, and dare I say it, even the world's largest sausage roll. All impressive, all respectable. But my favorite South African world record isn't any of those. It's the most expensive goat ever sold. So last year, a South African bred border goat, literally named Next Level, I'm not making this up, sold at auction for 2.3 million rand, the highest price ever paid for a goat, because its genetics made it a genuine agricultural asset. The price came down to, yes, elite genetics, size, muscle, growth rate, and breeding potential, so valuable that the goat's offspring alone were expected to generate millions over time. You'd swear we were talking about Ebenezabeth. And that's really the whole story. An absolute unit of a goat, bred properly, selling for millions, and breaking a world record in the process, which, dare I say it, makes South Africa the goat of goats. And as for that bagel bite, the answer is double jeopardy, the rule that lets the state get one fair attempt at conviction, not these endless do-overs. And my friends, that's it for today's show. Thanks so much for tuning in. Again, be sure to join us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify if you do prefer your news on the go. Otherwise, I hope you have a great day further. Be kind to one another, and we'll catch you all tomorrow for the next round of the good stuff. God bless.